Hey, what's up, Joe? That is a brilliant but flawed game that would benefit from an update or three. I mean, that's good. Oh, that was not good. There's a I it is a very it's a brilliantly conceived game that like I said, it's a little rough around the edges a lot of ways. Yeah. That one is particularly, I think. Yeah, I mean it takes a while for you to unlock of the various enough of the various moves and stuff to really make all that customization worth your while. Yeah, I mean it's like it does a lot of things that were way ahead of its time, like especially with the dynamic difficulty level. Where are you? You're not streaming this on Twitch? That's why I didn't start streaming. Oh, I can never find the streams on this thing. Oh, there we go. False Logic says that he can't hear your voice. Yeah. He said he can hear me, but not you. I mean, I don't. You have yourself muted in the thing, maybe on OBS. Also, yo, what's up, False Logic? How you doing?
Didn't have myself muted, but I had the stupid settings were stupid. Should hear me now, though.
The Unlikely Toad and False Logic both say that they can hear you now. So
excellent.
Also, False Logic says government work sucks. News at 11. Yeah, that sucks. Government work should be fulfilling and make you feel like you're being useful to the populace at large or whatever, but it's probably mostly just frustrating. I don't know. I've never done it. Working in a freezing cold warehouse in the middle of winter isn't much better, I would say.
I would believe that.
Super long drops.
Yeah, so as I was saying, when only you could hear me, the
I feel so privileged.
Yeah. Well, now I'm going to tell everybody else what I was saying, though. So, the soundtrack to this game is, I can't remember the name of the guy who did it, but he also did the No More Heroes soundtrack. And like any time that there's like a surf rock soundtrack in a video game, it's probably him. So yeah, but I really like this game. This is one of my favorite PS2 games. One of my favorite games, like people talk a lot about like, oh, the sort of the side scrolling or belt scrolling beat 'em up, and like what's your favorite one of those? And you know, for me it's Dungeons and Dragons Tower of Doom, because it's got just enough depth to be really interesting for the whole time, but it's not like the sequel, which is like kind of labyrinthine and confusing for the sake of it, which I think goes a little too far. But if I was just to say like my favorite beat 'em up game, like without specifying an angle of view or anything, like it's probably this game. I like this game a lot, and again, this is one that like just nobody's done this again. Like, and I don't know why no one has done something else like this. And some people, I've mentioned that before and had people say like, oh, well, like, Bayonetta, and I'm like, Bayonetta has guns. Like, it's not a beat 'em up. It's a different thing. Um, you know, but nobody has made another game quite like this one, and I think it's a damn tragedy. But what about the PS2? Since it's weird because like people will be like, "Oh, the PS2 came out in Japan on this day," but a bunch of Americans and like Europeans will reminisce about the PS2, even though it's not the 20th anniversary of when we got the PS2. But anyways, what's I think we probably talked about this when we did the draft, but what was your initial experience with the PS2?
Well, False Logic says middle managers are the death of everything, which
Not
I work
wrong.
at a small company, so I don't have much experience with middle managers, but I believe it. I don't know.
Same.
They have the opposite problem at the place I work, where there is basically no management. Just like a bunch of people that get handed like are kind of just supposed to do their shit, and nobody kind of organizes much of anything. So, anyways, or there is no like the organization is up to the people doing it. Unfortunately, we have people that are capable of taking care of their shit and it gets done. But, yeah, PlayStation 2. I mean, I got one. I won a. I know I've told this story like a million times before, but I read a lot when I was in high school, and like one of the lesser scholarships or whatever they gave out at the graduation was a thing for just like the two people in the class that were known for reading a lot, and I got that one. It was like $400 or something like that,
Yeah, just
and
enough
so I
for a
used that.
PS2.
Yeah, I bought a PlayStation 2, and I bought I don't I'm trying to remember what I bought. I don't remember what game. I know I bought Twisted Metal Black because my brother and I played a bunch of Twisted Metal 2
Yeah.
and Rogue Trip, and so I thought we would get a lot of use out of that. And then I can't remember what. I'm pretty sure I bought something else, and I also bought like a 27-inch TV. Um, and that was my first real go round with it. So it would have been the summer of '01, I guess.
Gotcha. So I got one on launch. Um,
I don't think I've ever bought a console at launch. I guess the Switch is
you
the
got a
only
Switch
one.
on launch. I was gonna say.
Yeah, because I just went to Target and they had them.
Yeah, that's
Also, I
right.
had
That's right.
the new Zelda game, which coincidentally is one of the best games ever made. So it was a good choice. Usually, game consoles at Switch aren't really worth the.
Yeah, and the PS2, like to be honest about it, the PS2
Yeah, I was
really
just gonna
wasn't
ask because like
either.
there wasn't much. Yeah,
But
like I
we
was
played a
still like
lot
in the middle
of
of my love affair with the Dreamcast when that thing came out,
right. I mean,
and there
same.
was still a lot of good like PlayStation 1 RPGs and shit that I hadn't played. So I was not lacking for good video games to play. So what did you get when you picked yours up?
So let's see here. I got Time Splitters, and what else did I get? This game is so good. Um, I got Time Splitters, and you would think now, knowing me, that like Gradius 3 and 4 would have been a thing. But no, I did. That was not one of the games I got. I think I just got Time Splitters and Tekken Tag. I might have just got Time Splitters and rented Tekken Tag actually. Which Time Splitters for its time um, was real good. We had a lot of my friends and I had a lot of fun with it. but there wasn't much for a while. Um, but I also used it as a DVD player. Like it was my family's first. I had a player that we
You
had
had
that was
a
connected to a television.
hmm,
So, so this is like sort of the we were talking before anyone could hear me about when you buy new moves and upgrade your moves and everything. Um, this is a big part of this game and sort of um, how you expand kind of what's going on based on the speed and the strength of the attack and everything. Um, so I don't have like some moves can juggle, some moves can break guards, some moves can launch, some moves can be charged. I can't afford anything like that right now, um, but I can get something that's a little stronger than a lot of what I've got. You can also get um, okay, now let's remap the techniques.
let's see. False Logic says is trying to figure out what his first PlayStation 2 game was. I think it might sadly have been The Bouncer. I don't know. Yo, that lady turns into a big satellite or whatever, right? Something. There's some weird shit in that game.
There's some weird shit in that game.
Um, had that Final Fantasy X demo. I think is that I don't. I think that might be why most of the people that played the Bouncer played the Bouncer.
Because it was the only thing available.
Yeah. Well, no, because it had that demo in it. That was a trick that they pulled on a lot of us
Oh
for a lot
yeah,
of stuff back in
Square
the
loved that
time.
was Square's
Yeah.
favorite trick.
I forget what exactly, and also Konami liked to do that too, because that was um, it Zone of the Enders had Metal Gear Solid 2 demo in it, or something.
Yes, Zone
And
of the
yeah, and
Enders
Square did
had
it all the time with a million different video games. I ended up with some really good games because of that, like Brave Fencer Musashi, and I was gonna say Xenogears, but I don't. I liked that game a lot when it came out, and then upon re-examination, it's a little bit more flawed than.
than perhaps initially thought.
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff. It's mostly I like that game a lot, and then the infamously weird bad second disc. Camaristico and Smoke Monster say yo and hey,
Hey,
respectively.
I don't think I can afford. No, there is no roulette. No roulettes for sale yet. Okay. Um, yeah, I definitely played the Metal Gear demo, but I didn't buy Zone of the Enders. So either I borrowed it from somebody, or I wonder if did Blockbuster just like rent the demo? Is that possible?
I don't know, maybe.
Or was it on
I
a
think it
magazine disc
was.
as
I
well?
think it might have come
Might
out
have
on
been
a
on a
magazine
magazine
disc,
disc too. Yeah.
like later after the fact, possibly.
Yeah, that sounds right. Um, but yeah, I don't. I really the launch lineup was not great, but it was really cool. To have um, a DVD player that I didn't have to sit at
Yeah.
my computer to watch movies. Oh, um, Yeah, but if it wasn't for the fact that my PS2 had crapped out on me eventually, it would be probably the oldest original system that I still have. That like was mine, that I got it when it was new and have never replaced it, but it crapped out, so I eventually replaced it with um, a slim model because it stopped working. And now actually the slim model is starting to get on its last legs, and therefore will need to be replaced soon. It stopped playing original PlayStation games. My US PS2 is no longer plays PS1 games. So, but I would say, you know, like average of one every 10 years or so. That's not that bad.
It's all right.
It's a pretty
Maybe
decent
the
lifespan.
backwards compatibility stuff will work out.
Yeah, I'm really hoping
And
that the
then you won't have to
PS5
worry about that anymore. Seems like at least Microsoft has a vested interest in.
Yeah, I mean, there's been some rumors already that the PS5 will have like full on, you know, PS1 through 4 backwards compatibility.
Yeah. It's. I
You know,
mean,
we'll see if that
that'd be
bears out,
nice.
of course.
I mean, we had what's his face was out talking shit about it not that long ago, saying that he
Good
didn't
old
think
what's his face.
what's his face there, the head Sony guy. Uh, was saying that he didn't think that that was a priority for consumers and that they weren't gonna worry about it. But
The head Sony America guy or the like actual head
Japan
Sony guy?
guy, yeah, this was a couple of years ago.
Oh
So
yeah, that was years ago. This is like very recent that there's been
yeah.
rumors of like when they start putting out details about the PS5, one of the first things is going to be is going to be, you know, full backwards compatibility with, you know, every other PlayStation fun. That I guess isn't a portable one, I assume.
I think they'll have I mean all the PSP and Vita stuff's all downloadable, so
right.
If
and the PSP doesn't have any weird controls stuff, so there's no reason that a PSP game couldn't be playable on something else. PS Vita had the weird back touchpad, so that could make it weird.
Potentially. I don't know. It would be nice. That would be cool if your consoles were more like PCs and just like 20 years of games were just usable all the time.
That would be nice, but to be fair, like once you cross like a particular Rubicon with PC games, like
that's why I said 20 years.
Well,
and even that stuff, and even most of that stuff is at least playable with. I mean, a lot of it you can buy on GOG for like $5 or whatever.
Sure, but if it's not on GOG, you have to like run an emulator to,
right?
You know, you have to use DOSBox or something to get. If you want to play original Maniac Mansion or something, you know, something that ran on Windows 3.1 or 95 or whatever.
DOSBox is pretty easy to run in most cases, though.
That's true.
It's not a high barrier to entry, especially compared to emulating like a PlayStation 2 game on your PC or whatever.
Right. Of course I'm up for the challenge. Yeah, but man, the PS2, and we talked about this when we did a draft 2 years ago. Is that when we did the PS2 draft? That sounds right.
Like that?
The PS2 is just, I mean, it's the best-selling home system in video game history, which, I mean, it has a library that is just ridiculously huge.
It's very good, also. Let me tell you about that Katamari Damacy.
Yeah, apparently best PlayStation 2 game ever made, according to the according to
me,
according to us. Yes,
I believe. Did I have the first pick?
You did have the first pick. Yes,
I know that was the game that I picked first.
Damn. Smoke Monster says gotta go fat. I feel like the fat PS2 has actually had more problems than the slim ones. But I don't know. But yeah, I mean, it just like it hit at the right time. I think you know, a lot of it had to do with timing, obviously. But you know, this thing where games were not yet like excessively expensive to develop or publish, and there was a lot of room for very weird experimentation.
Yeah, I mean, we get that now. That's not.
Well, we do now again, but we didn't
Yeah,
for
a few years there.
a little bit between the PS2 and sort of there was like a 5 or 6 year period in there, you know, before indie games and downloadable games became like a very viable marketplace where, you know, everything was a $60 retail game, and games were so expensive to develop that like nobody really wanted to take a risk on
Just there's more like
something
it's like there was
super
a long
offbeat.
period where we were getting like the weird games were like mostly like you play them in your browser or
Right.
download whatever off some weird
Yeah,
website that you've
everything
never
weird
heard
was
of.
on Congregate
Right.
or Newgrounds.
Um,
And not like, you know, and you had to be looking for that stuff, right? Like that stuff wasn't on the Blockbuster shelf. It wasn't
right.
on a storefront on your console where it was like right up in your face that like this existed, you know. The PS2 just had so much stuff where it was like, oh, like
It was. I mean, it was just like all the stuff was
fucking like
the old
Mr.
days when you
Mosquito
go to
and
a video game store and buy video games, and that was the way you got video games.
right. But you know, on the 360 you weren't getting a lot of like Mr. Mosquitoes and Get-to-Roo Mans.
Yeah.
You know,
Not until the indie game marketplace came out.
right? Not until it was
There was some
viable
fucking weird,
to
wild
download.
stuff on that. And when the indie game
Right, Xbox
space,
Live indie games,
yeah.
yeah.
It really wasn't. There really
Get
wasn't.
Rich or Die Gaming, was that the?
It's just like a lot of that stuff was weird games from small American developers and not weird Japanese developers. So they felt a lot different. Like there was definitely a big difference between some of the like a ZP2K9 or whatever and a Katamari Damacy in terms of its
Right.
like just the sort of aesthetic and whatever that they were going for.
Yeah, man, ZP2K9 was real good though.
There was a lot of good games, a lot of good video games as it turns out. But yeah, I mean, like I feel like a lot of that weird stuff felt like it was behind kind of a wall in the PlayStation days, and then in PlayStation 2 is when they started bringing a lot more of that. And the Dreamcast also was like, we're just gonna bring all these weird ass video games to America, and you can play them if you want.
Man, the Dreamcast is so good. The Dreamcast is so good. Since I modded my Dreamcast last summer, like I've realized, man, the Dreamcast was so good. I mean, it was mishandled in some important ways, and it was sort of like
the Dreamcast could have been really good, but it wasn't around long enough to really.
right. I think
There's some good games on it, but it's just the
a,
library is pretty unfortunately small, or than you would have liked it to have been.
yeah, but man, fucking like Illbleed and you know, like just shit like that. It's like this stuff, you know, existed in a very specific time and place, and like it and also like just a lot of really top tier arcade ports, which is like not a thing that people are concerned with anymore. But like,
because now it's all the arcade games are mobile ports.
Right. Well, also all the arcade games are like they're like when Street Fighter comes to the arcade, it's after it's already been on
Yeah,
consoles first, right? And then it's like there's just a computer inside an arcade cabinet basically that's just like running the game. Like I saw an interview with Eugene Jarvis a few years ago, and he was like all like he's like runs basically the only like dedicated arcade manufacturer that still exists, which is Raw Thrills, and he's like all of our games are just like computers in arcade cabinets. Like there's no more arcade boards, it's just you put a little computer in the cabinet and that's it. Like that's how arcade games work now. So it's such a different. Oh, come on. It's just such a different thing than it used to be. And the Dreamcast was just sort of like the king of, really accurate arcade ports right before it vaporized. But like Street Fighter 3 and JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, which apparently you're just finishing up the anime now, I'm told. So, like that stuff is just like it's it like even in the PS1 era, like some arcade ports were pretty good. We were getting close to arcade perfection, but like the Dreamcast just nailed it. Marvel vs. Capcom 2, all that stuff, all those Capcom fighting games, but we're supposed to be talking about the PS2, I think. So, which also had a bunch of like very good arcade ports. After it sent the Dreamcast to an early grave, unfortunately.
oh, that's that other squad. Ooh.
The PS2 also was like the place where a sort of surprising number of new properties and new franchises were launched, but also like old properties had some like good stuff happening at the same time.
Yeah, like I think that's like when you're talking about like the sorts of games that the bigger companies would put out, like that was definitely the era where they were willing to take a lot more chances. I feel like
Yeah.
that's sort of the thing that like that's one of the things that I miss a lot about that era, because it's definitely been the case in the 360,
Yeah.
PlayStation 3, PlayStation 4 era, that most of the companies are just putting out, and I mean a lot of times they're great games, like but it's like the third and fourth and fifth and 15th iteration of a series that's been around for a long time,
Yeah.
and we don't, I mean it's not that we are lacking for a lot of really cool interesting new video games, because that's definitely not the case, but it's
Right.
just like they're coming from smaller developers or whatever.
Right. Exactly.
Which is fine, it's not a problem, but it's just Capcom's not publishing God Hand in 2020, you know what I'm
No.
saying?
I was actually just gonna say, what was the
Although
last new
now that
IP?
Platinum has all that Tencent money, anything is possible, I guess.
Did they get bought by Tencent, or did they?
No, Tencent just gave them, I mean they like Tencent made a pretty fat investment in them, I think last summer, last fall.
Oh, I
I
think I
believe that
remember
was
that.
because they're making, I forget what it, they're like the next thing that they're making is like, we can just kind of, they said we can just kind of do what we want now, so
Which I like that.
Camaristico says, Joe just took me through some of the best days of my life. Although I love my Saturn, I got so much more out of my Dreamcast. So many blisters with MVC2.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Great sports and fighting game console for sure. Like, the modern era of sports games was ushered in by the Dreamcast. They're just so much better than what was on the Super Nintendo, PlayStation, Nintendo 64 era games, NBA 2K and NFL 2K in those games.
Yeah.
One with Soul Calibur and all that shit, obviously. But,
Oh, increase. Ah, shit. I missed my chance to increase my number of attacks. Oh well, I'll buy it next time. Yeah, I mean,
also, just a lot of my favorite games of all time are on the PlayStation 2.
yeah,
Katamari, obviously, and Silent Hill 2, and
Silent Hill 2 is so good.
yeah, Persona 3 and 4. Problematic, but great. I think I love SmackDown. Here Comes the Pain, the last
Yes,
great.
last great WWE. Well, All Stars was pretty good.
Yeah, I mean it's kind of a different thing, but yes,
Yeah.
All Stars was really cool. But I feel like Here Comes the Pain was like the last time I was really excited to play one of those. Okami.
Yeah.
You know.
Resident Evil 4, even though that was a GameCube game, but it was
It's
on the
PlayStation
PS4
2, you know,
or PS2.
whatever.
It's on everything. It's on anything that can play a video game. You can play Resident Evil 4 now. Yeah, I played it on both. I played it on the GameCube, and then I rebought it on the PS2 when it came out on the PS2 because it added like the Ada mission. Like there was one Ada mission on the GameCube version, but then there was like the longer Ada section on the PS2. And then I bought it again on the Wii, and then I bought it again on PC. And how many copies of Resident Evil 4 do I have?
Probably a lot.
A whole bunch.
I have whatever. Yeah, I don't think I have. I think the only original iteration I have is the GameCube one, but I have it on like 360 and PC as well, I think.
I might also have it on PS3. I don't remember now.
Yeah. And Ratchet and Clank, Sly Cooper.
Oh yeah, man, the first
Psychonauts.
two Sly Cooper games I liked a lot.
Yeah. That first Disgaea game was really fun. That was where that franchise started. Beyond Good and Evil and Eco and Shadow Colossus.
Shadow of the Colossus. Oh man.
I know. Did we mention Devil May Cry?
No, but also that
1 and 3. The God of War games got their start there. God of War 2 is when we did that PlayStation draft and I captured footage of that. I ended up playing through most of that game.
God of War 2.
This game is so much fucking fun. Yeah, 3 was kind of such a misstep, and then
2 is kind of where I got off the bus, honestly.
Yeah,
I played the recent one, but I didn't seem to like it as much as everybody else did.
Yeah, I started it and then I didn't go back to it, but that's just because I don't play a lot of stuff on consoles. But Prince of Persia and Splinter Cell and
oh yeah, Splinter Cell was started as a PS2
modern
thing.
Grand Theft Auto started on PlayStation 2.
Man. And even like I mean Metal Gear Solid
2 and 3.
2 and 3. 2 is like I mean I liked it at the time.
I love them both. I love them both for different reasons.
Yeah. I mean, I think 3 is the better one for sure, but you know, I actually feel like I need to replay 2. It's been a long time, and I have the HD collection and everything, so I may.
Dan Reichert and Drew Scanlon did a playthrough at on Giant Bomb a couple years ago that I watched, and I like it's way. I mean, it's just like all of Kojima's stuff. It's super overwrought and melodramatic and
extremely
ways that are great and also terrible. Like it's one of the best things and the worst things about the franchise is the manner in which those games are written. But the biggest problem with it compared to 3 is just that it's like the color palette and stuff is very drab, and it's kind of you're just kind of crisscrossing that oil derrick over and over and over again. But I mean, you can get peed on.
Well, in Metal Gear Solid, you can get peed on. And then the dogs or the wolves won't bother you.
In seagull shit and fall off to your death, though.
That you cannot do in the first one, I don't believe. That I recall.
Can you shoot a watermelon or ice cubes on one? I don't think so.
Yeah, that's true. It was very impressive to shoot the ice cubes and everything. All that stuff is... was pretty nifty at the time.
The proto modern rhythm games started on PlayStation 2 as well.
Yeah, Guitar Man. I
Yeah,
played
Guitar Hero.
so
Yeah,
much Guitar Hero
yeah.
and Guitar Hero 2. And then of course like Rock Band. I have a box full of Rock Band junk sitting right in front of me. Oh yeah, that was the thing I didn't mention. If anybody's watching, they might notice that the background has changed from what you're when you see me hosting, and that's because this is my first stream from the new house.
The Kingdom Hearts games, Joe.
Those are video games.
Burnout Revenge. How's that?
Oh, Burnout Revenge is good.
Oh, Burnout 3, Burnout Revenge.
Time Crisis 2.
I really liked the that was a really good era for Need for Speed games also, because they were still, that was before all racing games had to be sort of open world, for better or worse. They were
Worse,
still had
usually.
design tracks. I really like those last couple of Forza Horizon games. I think they're really fantastic. But
the only one of those that I like honestly really liked was Burnout Paradise.
Yeah. Did you play any of the Forza games?
No, but
well,
I mean
listen,
I didn't like
that most recent one. You can really knock a lot of fences apart.
I've heard that. I think part of it is because I played like regular Forza, and was so turned off by like how sim heavy it was, and I never really until recently realized that the Horizon games are like more like Ridge Racer than Gran Turismo.
Yeah, I think the track design, there's this whole, the biggest problem I have with them is this whole weird economy thing that you have to do to upgrade cards. Like there was definitely a part of me that misses when it was just like, here's some tracks and you unlock cars as you play, and it's, whatever.
Right.
But I was trying to remember what other games we picked in our draft. Baldur's Gate Dark Alliance.
That's the only Baldur's Gate game I've played.
I'm really excited for that new one.
I can't remember. It's a real Baldur's Gate. Not a
Yes,
it's not like the Planescape Torment
that,
thing that was like not actually D&D licensed.
The company that made Divinity Original Sin and Divinity Original Sin 2, they were given the license by Wizards of the Coast to make an actual sequel to Baldur's Gate. So it's not going to be like those games which were Edition 2, I think. Those are the taco editions of D&D where your armor class was actually like,
yeah, Thaco is the worst. It's so dumb. I learned how to play D&D with 2nd edition, and like you had to do fucking algebra to figure out if you hit something. It was terrible, and it murdered the pacing of combat.
Yeah.
It was not fun.
It was, I mean, it's a lot faster in a video game, but it still is not. That's not how you want to do it.
No, it really isn't.
Newer, like the Neverwinter Nights, which was the BioWare follow-up to the Baldur's Gate games, was 3.5, I think. And
that sounds right.
Made a lot more sense. And then the new one's going to be 5th edition, so.
Right, which is like pretty smooth. I play 5th edition now with friends of mine, and that's pretty
it's
smooth.
More flexible and more intuitive, and I don't know if I actually don't know if I've played a game that's based on 5th edition D&D or not.
Yeah, I mean
most of the video games, like the notable fantasy RPG video games that have their roots in those BioWare games, are inspired by but not actually licensed in that series. Like it's all the Dragon Age games or the Divinity Original Sins or the Pillars of Eternity or whatever. Although that most recent Torment game was really good, or Disco Elysium, which is its own thing.
Yeah, but you said that's like very heavily inspired by D&D, right? Based on your experiences with it.
Inspired by Baldur's Gate and Planescape Torment. I don't know. Oh, because I mentioned Baldur's Gate and I was talking about Baldur's Gate 3. I don't know. I hope Baldur's Gate 3 is good. The biggest
Same.
weakness of that company is the writing. So I'm hoping that like the writing in those games in the Divinity Original Sins game is very like tossed off, and it's not that the fantasy needs to be super serious in order to be good, but like you need to at least it's like a lot of like dumb jokey like this is dumb, right guys, kind of stuff, and that kind of wore thin in Divinity Original
Yeah.
Sin 1.
Eventually, that approach, yeah,
Yeah.
it wears off.
It's like if the characters don't care about anything that's happening, it's kind of hard to
Right? Why should I?
invest yourself in it. Yeah. But I don't know. They really did some really brilliant stuff with how those games play. So we'll see.
There's a dude around here somewhere that has like the antidote to this guy's poison, but I can't remember off the top of my head where it is. But he gives you something good if you save his life.
This is the problem I always have whenever I try and replay a game that I've played before. Because instead of just like intuitively playing through it, I'm like half remembering stuff, and then that just
Right.
fucks me up worse.
Although I will say, like, if you play a game, like if you, um, there he is.
If you play a game,
If you play a game that you have played before and you wait long enough so that you forget it, it's like a lot of fun. Like I think it was the last time I played through Symphony of the Night.
I don't mean to interrupt you, Joe, but Garfield Kart Furious Racing is half off this week. So
Oh well, damn.
yeah, we should all pick that up.
The last time I replayed Castlevania Symphony of the Night, I had forgotten pretty much everything.
A lot of it.
And that was like the optimal way to really enjoy it again, was to be like, oh, well, I don't remember where all the stuff is, and I don't remember any of that stuff. So it's like playing it, like I remember some of the bosses and I remember like where a couple of the important items are, but like for the most part I don't remember this game, and that made it actually really enjoyable to play through because it had been so long that it was almost like playing the game again for the first time. And at one point, it's been a while now, but at one point I had not played Resident Evil 2, the original version, in such a long time that it was basically like playing it again for the first time, and that was a very fun experience. So it's kind of the longer.
To the point where I forget enough to do that. It's always just like this half-remembered haze of like, what was I supposed to do? Like, I'm not quite paying attention close enough to actually do it right, but because I feel like I should know what I'm supposed to do, and then I can't quite put all the pieces together. I just did that last week when I was playing Bloodborne on the stream, because I played through the beginning when I was at your house last year.
Yeah,
and then
right.
I tried to play it. I was like, there was a like a message on the ground that was a part of a tutorial thing that you had to read, and I just like kept walking past it because you know what I mean? Because I've like already done that when I started it before, but I hadn't done it this time, and it was just like fucking me all up.
Yeah, I get that for sure.
Just like, I've played hundreds of hours of these games. I know how this works. I don't need to read this tutorial stuff, but that one.
But it won't let you advance, and which is like there's an argument that's like not maybe the best design to force you to read that. Oh, I'm 300 gold short. You gotta be shitting me. I'm gonna bet on a Chihuahua race. Oh, I can't bet on Chihuahua races yet. I just did the thing where I just did the thing where the poison Chihuahua gets introduced, so I thought I could do Chihuahua races. I could gamble at the thing, but I don't really want to do that.
Just go punch some guys.
Yeah, it's not a bad idea.
I can't remember. Can you farm for currency, or do you have to
You can. You can
do
go
each
into
area
this. You can
there?
go into the extreme fighting ring, and
Ah,
let's see. Oop, nope. That one. That was not what I wanted to do.
well, yeah. Divinity Original Sin 2 was on sale this weekend. I picked that up and started it. And then Kurt and Anthony were like, "We should play it together." And I was like, "Okay." Or I sent them I sent them a thing that said, "Hey, this game's on sale. Do you guys want to play this when we're done with Revenant?" And it's going to be a thing, I think, playing that with Anthony. We'll see how that goes. Because
Playing anything with Anthony is a thing.
Yeah, because he doesn't pay attention all the time, and also he just like thrives in chaos when he's playing video games. So,
Which makes you wonder how he ever completes a single player game.
I think maybe Abby keeps him on track.
I guess.
That would be my guess.
So this is like the weird gay panic part of this game, which is like not aged very well
Yeah,
at all.
there's some lot of different stuff in this game that maybe doesn't hold up super well.
Ugh, son of a bitch.
But I did start it. I loved the way that the combat in that game works. And then I also picked up the DLC for Grim Dawn was on sale a little while ago. So
Is
it's
it
gonna
just
start a new
more
character
campaign
with that.
areas, or is it what is it?
I think it's just more stuff.
Just more stuff to do.
Yeah.
That's the most fun I've had with the Pinata Monsters game in a while.
Yeah. I mean, that was, I don't know how many years ago that was when we played it, but it's like, I could start that again.
So the Behemoth is making a new game of an old game.
I didn't realize they were
apparently.
still active.
Yeah, they're making another Alien Hominid apparently.
Okay.
They made one since Battle Block Theater as well, I think, but I don't remember what it was, and I don't think I played
paying
it.
attention.
I guess. I was really hoping to find out more about what Yacht Club was doing next, and they had their little like Nintendo Direct thing like a week ago, and they showed more of that ninja game that they're publishing, and they talked about like, oh, we've got like 2 new projects that are like not Shovel Knight related in the works, but we're not showing them to you yet. And I was just kind of like, okay, well, screw you guys.
Behemoth's Pit People came out in
Pit
2018.
People, that's right. Yeah.
And this fast-paced, turn-based co-op adventure, you'll quest and explore, find awesome loot, customize your fighters, and recruit strange species. Looks like it's some kind of weird co-op hex-based strategy game.
That would explain why I didn't play it for sure.
Huh. I don't know. It is very positive reviews on Steam, if that means anything.
I mean, it means something to someone. I don't know how much it means to me. Oof. But yeah, I mean, I enjoyed Battle Block Theater. I had fun with that. I'd like to know what
Yeah.
Clay is doing. It seems like all they do now is new editions of Don't Starve.
Oh, Invisible Ink was. I guess that was like 4 years
I would
ago
say
now,
that
right?
was a. Oh, I want to say more. We played it at the last PAX we went to, which was 6 years ago. Although
Yeah,
I
but
guess I don't know
it
how
didn't come
it
out
didn't come
until
out until.
16 or 17. 16, I think.
Yeah, I mean they did a they did
They
a
just I just what the
they
hell
did
I
Mark of the
stream it.
Ninja remastered or whatever, and
Yeah, but I streamed oh, what the hell is it called? It's an early access on Epic Store. It's that weird card game where it's like what the hell is it called? Griftlands, I think.
oh yeah. That's right. I forgot
Yeah.
about that.
It's like a weird
It's like a
it's like
card game
Slay
where
the
you talk a
Spire. It's
lot.
like
Yeah,
yeah, it's like there's cards you build a deck for combat and also one for speaking to
one for
people and
talking.
like
Yeah,
yeah, and like sometimes one leads to the other or
that's right. I
whatever.
forgot that was them.
Yeah. So that's what they're working on right now. I thought it was very clever, but I wanted to wait until it was done before I really started to put some time into it.
Yeah. That's a lot of where I'm at now. Like the Final Fantasy VII demo is out, and I'm just kind of like, yeah. I mean, I'll just wait until I see what people think about it, and I'll either play the full game or not. Because
Hey, do you want to have a conversation about the Final Fantasy VII demo?
sure, did you play it? I assume you
I
played
did
it.
play it. I played it the day it came out.
What did you
I had to
think?
know. I thought it was pretty fun, actually. I think it looks super weird because it's just like super high res, super detailed 3D character models that looks almost exactly like the art, especially Cloud, with like slightly more realistic versions of um the character art from the original Final Fantasy VII, which is kind of a weird look, but I don't know. It sure is that intro. Like the music is more orchestral and doesn't have that weird synth sound that the original did, which is kind of a bummer. Actually, I kind of wish there was maybe an option to turn on the classic music. I've always felt like um, that wasn't like that. Those weird synths were like appropriate for the
For the
setting and
weird
aesthetic of the
dystopia,
game.
yeah.
Yeah, even though it's not maybe the best sounding thing, like shorn of that context, but
Yeah, I don't know. I really appreciated being able to turn on the old music for. Oh, I didn't think I actually pressed that, but okay.
Resident Evil.
For Resident Evil 2, yeah. I thought that was a really cool choice, and just because I think a lot of the music of that's kind of the last era where, unless it's an intentional choice, like the music sounds different than the music you would normally hear in a film or on the radio, or you know what I mean. Like game music had like a sound to it of limitations of whatever hardware you were working with, and sort of after the PS1 that sort of went away because once we were on DVDs, like space just wasn't a concern anymore, and so there was no like everything was the equivalent of Red Book audio. It was just a recording of music that played with the
Yeah.
game, and I think the music leaves a more of an impression. Like I've played through Resident Evil 2, the modern one, a couple times with the current music, and like it's good, but yeah, I mean it just mostly doesn't like it doesn't stand out. Like there's some motifs from the original music that are in there that you can pick out if you're paying attention, but like it just sounds like music like fairly unremarkable music from like a horror movie, and I'm just like, okay, well that's fine. I don't necessarily dislike it. But
Yeah, I
like
thought it was fine.
I
I thought it like
yeah.
matched what the like whatever. It was appropriate to what I was playing. I honestly don't remember the music that much
Yeah, exactly.
from the game, but I don't remember the music from the original that much either, except for like the really
The police
like the
station theme, I think, like
yeah, the
stands out quite
PlayStation
a
theme
bit.
and then the save room
The
music
save room music.
are the two biggies.
I'm gonna beat the two
I don't
weird
know,
gay
Joe. The
panic
music that
characters.
plays when Mr. X is chasing you around is pretty fucking good.
That's true. You
I
mean
mean, it
X
would be
gonna give it to
better
you, right?
if it. Yeah, I mean, it would be better if it was DMX, obviously, but we can't have everything.
Well, if you have the PC version, you
Right, then you can
can.
have everything.
Then you can have everything.
But yeah, I don't. I really like the combat in Final Fantasy VII. It's similar to the combat in Final Fantasy.
Crisis Core, is it?
Well, yeah, I was
Or
gonna say like more recently, like 15 is um like a more recent touchstone for that. I don't know that a lot of people played that one, but um, it's similar to that, but it's way more fast paced than 15. And you like in the demo at least there was no like combos, but you like mash on the square button to attack, or you can hold it to do like a super attack, and then you can like swap between when you're playing as Cloud. There's like a fast mode where your attacks do there's like a fast mode and a punish mode or something it's called. And the punish mode, you move slower and it's harder to dodge, but you do more damage. And the fast mode makes it easier to dodge, but you do less damage.
right.
And also the combos are slightly different, but it's like you're just like either mashing on square or holding square, and there's not a lot of you're
Are
not
there?
thinking about it the way that you would in a Devil May Cry or something, as far as I
Right.
know. But so where they mix it up is that it still has an ATB gauge like classic Final Fantasy, but that gauge fills up as you make normal attacks, and then you can go into the menu, and then it like the game goes into like super slow mo,
Okay.
and then you can access your menu, and then you like pick if you want to cast a spell or do a special sword move or use your limit break attack if you've gotten that, because that's also the same as the other games where it's like you have a limit gauge that slowly fills up. But like with sword attacks, you have to make sure you're positioned correctly or you'll miss. It doesn't auto aim or anything.
Hmm.
um, but I thought the combat was actually pretty fun for the most part. There's like a wide variety of enemies, and like about halfway through the demo, you get access to like Barrett joins your party, and you can swap between the characters whenever you want. And so, like in some of the combat encounters, they would put like two melee characters on you, and then like one or two turrets would be shooting at you. So you'd be like, you can't hit the turrets as Cloud because he's a sword guy. So you have to play as Barrett to shoot the turret to make sure he's targeting the turrets. And then you want to switch back to Cloud to keep the melee guys off of Barrett while he's shooting the turrets and stuff like that. It seemed like um, the potential is there for that to be a maybe the first time ever where I've played one of those weird action slash RPG hybrid combat systems that I actually like. Like the Final Fantasy, usually the it's like the action is too slow to be engaging, and
Hmm.
then it just like makes it like not as much fun and not as strategic to do the RPG stuff. It just feels like
Right.
bad MMO combat. Although I don't like. I mean that's like what the Final Fantasy games have been like MMO combat since Final Fantasy 12,
12, right?
basically.
Yeah.
Yeah, which is not
Yeah.
my favorite. I prefer one or to other. I don't really care for those
Right.
weird hybrid combat systems.
I mean, I'm
Which is part of
interested.
the reason why I haven't played a lot of RPGs in the last
So is it like the
10 years or
original?
so.
Is it like the original demo where it goes up to the scorpion thing
Yep,
and
pretty
that's
much. You do the whole intro of the game basically. You run up, plant the bomb on the. They call it Mako, but everybody I ever talked to called it Mako.
Right.
because that's how you would pronounce that word in English. So super fucked up that Barrett says Mako over and over again. I really hate that. But you put the bomb on the Mako reactor and then blow it up, and then you do the escape sequence and fight the boss. And I don't know. I liked it. I think I'm gonna pick it up, and we'll see how that goes. I don't. It's really weird because Midgar is like I don't know, a 5 or 10 hour section of a 70-hour game, and how they're gonna make that part one is weird. And also just the fact that like there's no indication anywhere in the marketing for that game or on the like even in the Steam store or whatever, they don't really tell you that you're only getting a third or a fifth or whatever of Final Fantasy VII. So it'll be interesting to see how that all plays out. But I'd be happy to play 20 or 25 hours of that game. Hopefully it's not much longer than that. I think that I'll probably might not make it if it's too much longer than that. But
Yeah.
that's like the characters look weird, but the enemy designs are really good in that, and that stuff all really works. I think in being super high res, and um, I don't know.
Interesting.
I thought it was pretty good. I didn't I don't love it or whatever, but also I'm just really curious to see what a fresh translation of that story works out to be, because it's always
You mean a good translation of that
yeah,
story?
like not a fucking horrible translation. Um, it's just so Final Fantasy VII is so it's like if you were on the internet back in the late 90s or early 2000s, it's just like the thing that everybody talked about constantly for like a decade. Um, people were still getting into flame wars like 20 years later uh, over what the plot meant, and because it was such a bad translation, everybody kind of got what they wanted out of it
Yeah.
in some ways. Like you could sort of freely interpret a lot of stuff from that game, and so it'll be interesting to see what a real, uh, more like a better go round at that ends up being, and also how they reinterpret a lot of those themes in 2020
Yeah.
or 2019, 2018, 17, and 16.
However long
And
they've been
all the
working on this
yeah.
thing.
Um,
Jesus Christ.
how's your blackjack going?
I'm trying to get enough money so I can get another attack slot, and I just did it, so I'm gonna
There you
go
go.
do that.
But yeah, I don't know. It was good enough that I'm I'll pre-order and play that game when it comes out. I have to know. I have to know what that game is. I
Yeah,
have to
I'll,
find
I'll
out.
probably get it from GameFly just to see what it's about, but it's been a while since I've liked a Final Fantasy game, so we'll
Yeah.
see.
Oh yeah. I mean, you know what, Joe? My recommendation is you should check out the demo
Yeah, that
and see
seems
what you think
reasonable, I
about the
guess.
combat.
Yeah,
Because
why
that'll
rate?
determine
I
a
guess
lot
why
of
waste
whether or not you like it or not.
why waste a rental on it when I can
Yeah,
just play the
you can.
demo?
The demo is like a couple of gigabytes, and you can find out what you think of a combat at the very least.
Yeah, that sounds reasonable, I guess. You make a compelling argument.
The only thing I
Anyway,
don't know is if your progress will carry over. You have to play through that whole opening again.
how long is it?
Uh, I don't know. It took me like an hour, 90 minutes. It's not super long.
Okay. Well, I think I'm gonna call it here because it's about 20 after 10, and I've played some God Hand and almost the whole first stage. Um, so I think we might leave it here, but I'm thinking about doing a. Let's see, I have to look at my options, but I might do a short notice charity stream on Saturday to benefit my hometown, which was ravaged by a tornado this week. And I was doing some volunteer work earlier today with some of my coworkers, and it's pretty bad in some parts of town. I was fortunately in a good place geographically, and nothing happened to us at all. We didn't even lose power. but some people in my city are pretty messed up. So thinking about doing a few hours worth of wrestling games since it's WrestleMania season, and see if maybe some people will throw a few bucks to one of the local charities to help some folks who no longer have homes near me out. So we'll see how that pans out. I need to, like I said, do some research into some of the charity options and see what I can put together. But I think that's probably going to be a thing on Saturday. So stay tuned for that. Otherwise, we'll see you next Wednesday with something else.
Bye.